Hi, welcome to the Practice Sports Coaching's YouTube channel. The presentation you're about to watch actually took place live at one of our sessions. So can I use this opportunity to invite you to come and join us? We meet every Tuesday and the details are on the screen. If you like this kind of content, can I encourage you to please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell? That way you'll get notified whenever we release any new content. Let me not take too much of your time. Enjoy today's presentation, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, so this concept came to me a while back, not that long ago, and I really enjoyed getting to explore my thoughts. I've always been so careful about what I say to myself, but when I really stopped, what I say to myself and what I think in the background are two completely different things. So today we're really going to explore what our thoughts are telling us. So first of all, let's really examine your mind is the most powerful tool that you have at your access. And the beautiful thing is you have it with you 24/7. So if we really utilize it and really learn to manage our mind and manage our thoughts, we can become really powerful and really successful in every single area of our life. And I don't know who wouldn't want that. Secondly, creating awareness of your thoughts actually creates freedom in your choices. When you are aware of what you're actually thinking in the background, you can shift some of those thoughts, and those thoughts then will help you to create a really big and beautiful life. Number 3, the way to separate fact from our perceptions, like we talked about last week, is to become the neutral observer. And many of us have heard the term neutral observer, but what I really mean by that is looking at your thoughts and not judging them, not trying to correct them, not shaming yourself for feeling that you shouldn't think that way, but just saying, well, that's really interesting. I wonder if there's another way to look at this. The results of your actions always prove that your thoughts are correct. Our brains are really trained this way. So every action we take is backing up a thought that we've had. So some of our thoughts may not be that pleasant. Maybe at a very early age, we had feelings that we were unlovable. And so those thoughts that play in our head, we look for evidence of that. Where your attention goes, your focus goes. So if your attention is thinking and feeling, I'm not lovable, you're going to look for evidence of that in your life. So if we change our thoughts, we're going to look for evidence of other things in our life that are more beneficial to us. And lastly, like I just mentioned, our thoughts can get embedded into our brains at a very, very early age. It could be either what we perceived something to mean. It could be actual words that we heard. It could just be conditioning, even social conditioning. So really beginning to examine those thoughts and challenge some of them that no longer serve us is really going to help. All right. Lastly, our minds, they are constantly running on autopilot. And thank goodness they do. Running on autopilot also means that we blink our eyes and we swallow and we breathe without thinking about it. But also our thoughts can go unmonitored for truth. Everything you think is not necessarily true. So like if we have an old thought, using that example again, that we are unlovable, you have to check that for truth. Because honestly, we are all lovable. So that is an untrue thought. So what we're going to do now, I mentioned earlier that we're going to have a little bit of an exercise. I want you to take out pen and paper or on your phone, whatever you choose to do. And I want you to spend the next minute Well, we could spend 2 minutes thinking about your thoughts. Actually, write down what are some of the thoughts that you're having right now about your coaching career and thoughts that are holding you back. Thoughts, limiting beliefs, anything that you feel is not serving you. So just jot down some of those thoughts because we're going to use them in our coaching later on. So I'm going to go ahead and set a timer for 2 minutes, which is going to feel like a really long time, but just exhaust your thoughts. Let one right after the other, right after the other, right after the other. And like I said, don't try to change them. Don't try to limit them. Just let them flow. All right, you have about 30 seconds left. So get down to those deepest thoughts. Dive deep, as I like to say. All right. How many of you found that exercise to be challenging? To really allow all of your thoughts to come to the surface. All right, moving on. Let's take a look at the flow of thought. So oftentimes we can either start with a thought or we can start with a circumstance. A circumstance is just a situation. It is very neutral and it's very fact-based. It's indisputable. It can actually be held up in the court of law. It is void of emotion. And everybody would agree this is what really happened. Then we have our thoughts around that circumstance or that situation. So it's our interpretation or our perception of the situation. It's the meaning, the story behind the circumstance that we create in our minds. And that can actually greatly vary from person to person. Not everybody is going to have the same experience and think the same thing about it. Take COVID, for example. Some people saw it as a great way to relax and work from home and get back to cooking for themselves and all these wonderful things. And other people were really threatened by it. So from those thoughts that we have, we actually create our feelings. A long time ago, I used to have a really hard time distinguishing the difference between my thoughts and my feelings because they were so interconnected. But if I really stop to look at it, it is the thoughts that create the emotions. It could be a feeling within your body, it could be just tension, or it could actually be like stress or shame, guilt, some sort of actually emotion. It can actually just be an energy or a vibe, like I don't feel good. Next, from our feelings come our actions. So every feeling we have creates an action or it creates an inaction. So these are all based on our emotions that we're feeling, and it can be an activity or a lack thereof, and it's always triggered by our emotions. So you might be able to see where we're going with this, and some of you may have heard this before. And then our actions create our results. So this is actually what we can see as a result of our action or lack thereof again. And it is always related to your thoughts. So interestingly enough, like I mentioned in one of the first slides, your results always go back to and are evidence of what you're thinking. So the beautiful thing is we can change all of that. So the thought investigation tool I created here. So here's an example that happened to me. So the circumstance was I was creating a website. My thoughts around this were, this is going to be difficult. It's going to take a really, really long time. I tell you, I was dreading this. The last time I worked on creating a website, it was just awful. And so I carried that experience and those thoughts forward to this experience. My emotion was overwhelm. My action, I complained about it a lot. I put off working on it. I watched TV instead because I just wanted to numb out from it. Okay. So the result was I didn't have a place for people to register for my new upcoming workshop. You can see how that's really important, right? So this is where the magic happens. When we create deliberate thoughts, we actually are creating deliberate results. So just think about that for a minute. If you want something to change, change the way you're thinking about it. Another way that I really like to say it is your thoughts that create the experience, not your circumstance. Your circumstance is based in fact. There's no emotion around it, so it does not create the experience. Just like this image here, you can see one thing or you can see the other. So what are you choosing to focus on? So let's take this same investigation tool, and I've broken it down from your from your automatic, autopilot type, and intentional in nature thoughts, emotions, actions, and results. And then we've divided that line and we've created our deliberate intentions. So my thought was, this is going to take a really long time. So the circumstance stays the same because that's the fact through and through. My thought went from it's going to take a long time and be difficult. And I reminded myself, I love learning new things and I love developing new skills. So that thought actually made me feel empowered. And from that emotion of feeling empowered, then I did some research. I got started. I also asked for help with a few tasks that were really bogging me down. And as a result, my website actually got done in less than a weekend. And now then people were able to register for my workshop. So the keys to success. So many of us, we want to judge our thoughts because especially as coaches, we feel like I shouldn't think that way. Oops, that's a limiting belief. So we just toss it aside, but we actually take them out and examine them. Then we can start to make changes from them. Also, really discovering the true emotion of your thoughts. Again, sometimes we feel things that are unpleasant. We don't want to feel them. And so we just determine, oh, I'm just going to push that thought, that feeling aside, and I'm not going to allow myself to feel that true emotion. Also, only list yourself in the action and the result line of that chart I showed you. The reason being, you have no control over anyone else. So you can only control your own actions, and through your own actions, you're going to achieve those results. So if I'm feeling unloved and I think, oh, it'd make me feel so loved to have my boyfriend buy me a bouquet of roses, I can't put that action in the action line to make me have the result of feeling loved. I have to do that for myself. So you can start, this is the beautiful thing about this chart and this system, which I didn't create, but I've adapted it a little bit. You can start anywhere on the chart. You can start with an emotion. If you're just having a feeling, but you can't connect what thought or circumstance it relates to, start there, and then eventually you can fill in the rest of the chart. You can also start with a result. Maybe you want to earn X amount of money. So work backwards on the chart and see, what do you need to do? How do you need to feel? What do you need to think to get you there? And lastly, make sure that when you are changing your thoughts from those unintentional thoughts to the ones that you desire, your intentional thoughts, make sure that you feel that they are believable. Your brain is automatically going to reject thoughts that it does not believe. And so make sure that as you are doing this system, you might need to have a bridge thought. And a bridge thought is something that gets you to where eventually you want to go, but it's taking those baby steps to get you there. So our coaching assignment for today, we're going to take one of the thoughts that you wrote down from our little exercise earlier today, and we're going to explore it together. So we're going to be completing the chart first by exploring your unintentional thoughts, actions, and results, and then switching over to the intentional side. How do you want to feel? What actions do you want to take? What do you want the result to be? And then if you have time, you can also start using that chart by filling it in from the result first, and then fill it in backwards. So thank you for listening today. In a few moments, I'm going to go ahead and put that chart back up so you can make some notes. But if you'd like to connect with me, here is all of my information.